The breech light is green and the chargeman's hand shakes like a kicked lamp. Smoke pushes low across our boots. I smell warm coolant, old dust, someone's sour breath inside the rebreather. I press my visor to the pitted wall and count my pulse to keep it quiet. On the steel before me, my shadow sits crooked like it wants to crawl away from my body before I take the corner. Minutes later, the hull is a memory behind us. We move in with shoulders touching, boots clacking on tiles slick with powdered glass, breath like battery acid in the mask. We move because the Vox says move or die. We are 5 when we cross the stained threshold. I keep my thumb along the selector and my cheek on the stock the way Corporal Dahl taught us, cheekbone eating the plastic so the weapon feels like a tooth. No one talks. There is only the counting of corners. I'm the measured turn of our heads, the soft flap of a paper banner somewhere inside the gloom. The building used to be something between shrine and school. Benches sit like rows of teeth. Candles cling and puke wax. A painted man stares down from a wall, eyes scrubbed blank by some hard hand. I look at those stubs and feel a prickle along my scalp that wants to raise the helmet off. Hab War, I understand. The snap of enemies who are as mortal as I am. The clean lines of fire, the way a man becomes a riddle of red and then lies still. Today the air has a taste like coins left in rain. The Auspec's grunt went muffled on the approach. The Vox chatter kept clipping like something had hooked the words and couldn't pull them all the way through. We've been told anomalous hostiles, and that is a word like a locked door. Blue light smears from a ragged window. The sky outside is the color of old bruise. I keep a pack in my palm, thumb feeling the teeth on its edge. 3 left and 1 hot. Dahl's glove brushes my shoulder twice, left corner slice. So I step with the barrel tucked, sweeping, and the room opens up. Altar cracked through the middle, wire curling out like veins, a pool of oil hiding under dust, pretending to be nothing at all. Shek's boot steps in it and comes away with a skin on the leather that peels like paint. He doesn't swear. He looks down too long and then looks away. In the transept to the right, someone has drawn a circle on the floor with a nail. The groove is too straight for a hand without help. My eyes don't like to sit on it, the way eyes don't like the sun, and the candles around it are drowned in their own wax, long ridges like stalactites pulled sideways. Dahl's lip moves. I can't hear him through the mask, but I know the words because I whisper them sometimes while I strip the laser gun. Keep the charge singing. Keep my hands true, keep me aimed. I do not say the other prayer, the one that mentions souls, because it sits funny in my mouth today like a borrowed word. We take the next set of doors with our shoulders. The hinges complain. The smell deepens. Hot iron and rot and the sweetness that rides behind fevers. Stenciled along the next wall is a phrase I don't read because the letters keep sliding, and when I decide not to try anymore, they are ordinary again and say nothing at all. I glance at my left glove. The knuckle studs have sweat slicking the screws. I flex my hand just to feel the skin catch. Forward, Dahl says, not whispering because whispering shows you think the enemy can hear. The enemy can hear anyway if they exist. I think of the transport waiting, hot and safe with its engine thrum. I think if I count the steps between pews, we will be out soon. I think of my nameplate, rubbed smooth at the numbers. The noise begins like a wind searching for a way in. It comes from nowhere and everywhere, smearing through the hall, a pressure that nudges my teeth apart. We all stop. The candles tilt. The wick flames lift like they're looking up at something coming down. A hanging chain scrapes gently against itself, tiny rings biting like insects. Do not stop, Dahl says, but the wind is in his words now, a grit that catches. He makes the hand sign for eyes up, and I do it with more care than I've done anything in months. The floor ahead is slashed by sunlight from a hole in the roof, a straight, bright blade across stone and dust. In that line of light, the motes move too slow, each one a bead perfectly distinct, dancing in ladders that don't match the pull of breath. I step through it and all my hairs lift. Something inside me steps after me a fraction late, drags, catches up. I feel the seam of it. I almost turn around to see what I left, but Dahl palms my back and I go forward. The benches open onto a square with low walls, a courtyard choked with brittle weeds. Red paint flakes from a statue of a woman with many hands and no face. The face is not eroded. The face is simply not there, just a bowl of smoothness that reflects me in a long smear. Sinks line one wall, and their taps twisted off like snapped fingers. Prometheum drums sit stenciled and honest along the far side, and a drop line hoses away behind a pillar to a generator that ticks, then doesn't, then does again, refusing to choose. We fan out because this is what we know. The drone of the wind thickens until it is not wind. The air seems to slant. Shek looks at me and I can see his eyes so white in the mask. They look like beads of fat set in meat. "Hear that?" he says, and his words, very small, fall just in front of his face and hang there, quivering as if tied by a hair. We are not in any drill that has a name. Corporal Dahl lifts his hand and the motion leaves a faint track behind it, as if the air had the density of oil. "Fix bayonets," he says. He says it not for the blade, but for the act. Because putting steel on the muzzle pushes you deeper into yourself. The ring of metal on metal sounds like it's coming out of a pipe. I lock mine and feel the ghost of the last person to touch this rifle in some other unit. The little buff mark left by their thumb. My thumb fits it because all thumbs are the same under the skin. The circle we saw is not on the floor anymore. It is exactly where it was and also drawn inside the stretch of my rib cage and also not at all. I refuse it. I keep my eyes on Dahl's back. He moves like a man moving honest boxes from one room to another. The left wall pulses. Brick should not do that. The bricks ease outward in a breathing I can time my own lungs to, and I do, and then stop because I think if I keep time with it too long, my breathing will be borrowed and I will forget how to get it back. We reach the central run of the courtyard and the tiles underfoot click as if hollow. The wind is singing now. The song presses up through my boots and climbs the meat of my legs. Someone laughs, short, hurt, because the sound is too much like being a boy and feeling a train pass under a bridge you're standing on, bones muttering inside the marrow. I see the first wrongness in the weeds, a place where the stalks bend not from weight but because they are looking. They crane and then shiver like dogs scenting. The statue's many hands flex. They do not move, they flex. The space in the archway at the far end gets thinner, the way heat makes air waver. Only there is no heat. Something walks where a thing should fit, and it does not fit. It makes the arch bigger without growing it. The stones tick. Dahl makes a sound that is not a word and we start firing. We fire because there is no other craft we have. Red threads leap and strike and the whole court stinks of hot glass. And after the first volley, the something keeps coming and I have to keep adjusting my eye because it squirms through the idea of where my eye expects a body to be. The las bursts come back not as light but as a flavor, a grit on the tongue. My rounds go through a spread of insect legs and hit a bronze notice board behind it that had not been there an instant before. My muzzle, moved by training, tries to correct for a recoil that hasn't existed in our weapons for centuries. My shoulder tries to become a hinge. My body is telling old stories, and something else is writing over them with a nail. The shock comes like a hand closing around my lungs. It steps fully into the court and every nail on every bench stands up and rings. It is not size that hurts, it is how it insists on being many sizes at once and each one hates the others. Horns drag gouges in the light, not the stone. Its mouth has too many edges, and none of them are where your mind wants a mouth to sit. It smells like the top of a boiled kettle and the sweetness of a baby's head crushed into old incense. My left hand crawls off the stock and clutches my tag chain as if commanded by some other corporal in a different time. I know the word for what it is because the word has lived in the marrow of the prayers, Daemon. I know the word, but it does not settle on it. Our doll screams us to fire and someone is sobbing through their mask. I shoot until the pack starts to spit. The light licks across the thing and vanishes like it fell into a well. Shek runs forward with the melta he carried like sin, and the barrel hisses at the end of its swing, the sun across water for a second, sweet and white. The thing leans toward him as if curious, like a dog offered a piece of meat. Shek's right arm vanishes up to the elbow. Vanishes not burned, not cut. And the stump ends in a neat, wet mirror that reflects the vents above us. He looks at it with the clean bewilderment of a man who has misplaced a tool. Then the mirror flesh spills him as if it had been waiting under him all along. What lands on the tile is not any of the shapes that mean a man. Dahl hits the promethium drum with heavy rounds. He is yelling into the vox for backline fire, and the wire says yes and then no and then a humming laugh. The statue's many hands clap in their stone, leaving powder lines on the palms like chalk. The demon's head turns toward me and the air between us gets thick like soup. I think of the number on my last pack because it's something exact. I slap it home. It gives me a kiss of blue that burns my palm through the glove. It takes Corporal Dahl like a father stooping to shake a child, and then, because it is not a father, it keeps going, and all the small noises a body makes when opened play at once, like someone dropped a spool of tape. The thing peers into what he is like, a man smelling bread to see if it is still good, and then it sees the vox and crushes it between two fingers that are not fingers, and the pieces of the vox spill out a black powder that moves as if it's remembering being smoke or wanting to be again. I realize my cheek is still on the stock. My mouth is making the firing command word that I heard from the first day. The command word is wrong, a dumb animal's yelp, but it's what I have. I squeeze until there are no more squeezes. The world moves in hard pulses as if the building is a heart and we are clots. The promethium line jumps when a round finds it. Orange breath goes along it like children's lanterns. The drum's skin blisters, pops, pours a clear shine. The demon cocks its slick knothead at the light, or at the idea of the light, the way one looks at music you are sure you've heard in a room you've never visited. And the line of flame comes to the drum with the neatness of rails, and the drum goes up like a week's worth of prayer slips, sudden and total. Heat slams my face. My visor fogs and then clears because the air is taken up by fire. The demon blooms in the blast, opens like it is being given first breath. It does not burn like a man. Fire lies down on it as if it were a bed. Then the bed tips and the fire slides off and runs away into the weeds. The heat peels the paint from the statue's flanks and the hands slick like fat. The roof groans. Tiles begin to drop and each one falls slower than the last. The sound of them striking the floor rises, delayed like thunder too long after lightning. Someone is alive. Someone is screaming the small name they kept in their pocket for when the war was over and they went home. The name flutters and then sticks flat against a column and does not move. I grab the screaming person, Tav, I think Tav, whose shoulders always make the straps look tight, and I shove him behind the fountain edge that is already split with heat. I slap his cheek and the cheek is very far from me, like I am operating sleeves with sticks inside. Breathe, I hear a voice say. The voice is a stone dropped into a well. I do not own the voice and do not correct it. The demon comes soft through the smoke, soft like a belly of a fish you slide a knife into and then too quick at angles like a cut in film. Every angle of it hates the other angles. It is cruel geometry. It sniffs. I taste everything I ever ate. The teeth in its mouth do not agree with each other about what to point at. They convert. They evangelize in bright, quick clicks. And it examines my laser gun with a clever sadness. I think it pities that we made anything so honest. I look away and see the prayer strips somebody pasted on the pillar. They ripple without any air. The ink bleeds. The words run and reknot as stitching in reverse. My hands, which are my hands, move to my belt and find the round grenade, the one I checked twice on the carrier because it had a dent I didn't trust. I pull the pin and the spoon stays. I do not question this. I bite the spoon and an old filling hums. I roll the grenade not at it because my hands know a line it will not walk along. I roll it under the fallen drum where the promethium pumps along the floor ridge like sap. I count with the old chant, the one old doll made us do when the timer on the charge broke and we all had to use our insides to measure distance. I reach 3 and the world snaps and my ears fail and the court opens its throat to shout. The blast buoys us all. The demon goes not up or back but sideways into a wall made of a color that doesn't have a name because I have never had to point at it before. It shimmers like heat on a salt pan and its hide becomes a gallery of the faces in my company, 100 of us at once bending and boiling. They lick themselves out a moment later. The thing rips itself through the oval it has made in the air, dragging a tail of slick screams that drip like nap from a tree. For the first time, it is not looking. It is making itself into a shape that remembers distance. I take Tav by his collar and I make a road between my shoulders and the bolt-marked door and I walk it. The heat bites my calves as if a beast under the tiles has taken an interest, and the weights on my webbing are suddenly sweet and honest. I want honest weights. Honest things hurt in clear ways. Behind me, something barks from the roofline and a rib of iron slides through the demon's shoulder, which is not a shoulder. It is the beam that cracked during the first barrage last night. It moves between us now because this is a world where beams fall and lie and have ordinary ends with rust on them. The demon shakes free in zeros and ones and the hole it made begins to forget its edges. A smell like rain on stones hits the back of my mouth and I nearly vomit into the mask. I clamp my teeth so I won't drown myself and keep walking. The hall we entered is long now, longer than it was before, long as a small hunger. I move down it anyway. Firing sounds come in hiccups at first, then smooth out into a line, and someone else is alive deeper in. A woman's prayer, hiccuping. The chain squeaking again. It is all the tiny life of a building that can become normal if you are allowed not to ask it to explain itself. Tav stops screaming and starts making the wet sound that means his lungs are voting against air. I set him down by the stained basin and twist the mask aside just enough to thumb vomit clear. He tries to say my name. The name gets caught in the mesh of his teeth. I press the mask back and he breathes it instead of me. His eyes focus. That small victory rings like someone flicked a glass with a long nail. I leave him with the basins and step back because the heat is pushing it. The fire along the drumline is doing a children's parade hand in hand with its own smoke. The floor around the circle we first saw has become shiny as if licked. I keep to the shadow of a pillar. A burst of laughing shrieks like gulls comes from nowhere and scatters like drops on hot plate before I can pin where it came from. I sight along the bayonet toward the octagon of the courtyard again. Not for anything except the steadiness it puts in my shoulder. I catch a glimpse of Shek in the corner of my eye or in the corner of my thought. Shek has 2 pictures overlain badly, one with his arm, one with not. For a beat, I do not remember which goes first. Did the arm come off and then he turned, or did he turn? And that action pulled the arm off. It matters to nobody now but the rhythm in my chest trying to find a place to stand. I square myself and fire when the Daemon breaks the smoke again. I fire knowing it is like urging waves back with my palm. I fire because doing nothing is a weight too hard to pick up. The beams in the roof finally choose their side and go. The statue topples with its hands stretched forward. One hand comes off and rolls. It stops upright, palm out, blessing nothing. Dust pours. The world narrows to each breath. The Daemon is smaller now. Or I am larger because I am so close. Its mouth is a cathedral smashing into itself. It is full of light and dark in the same instant. I can see each of the coins on the floor flipping through the mirror of its throat, heads, tails, nothing heads. It makes a sound like a harnessed animal begging not to be taken under a low bridge, stubborn and afraid and angry, and the pleading makes me think of the way I would not hold a dog's head down for the barber as a child. I let my barrel dip a finger's width in some old act of pity, and then I correct it because I am a soldier and pity has shapes and places, and this is not one. I feel the pack bite the last of its charge away. The barrel smokes a little, a smell like tinfoil held to a candle. The demon steps wrong and catches itself on the world, and in that wrong step I throw myself and slam the heavy door that has been hanging from one hinge since before we came. The hinge screams. The door swings and meets a chunk of broken wall and stops only mostly before the door frame. Good enough? A shield. The impact runs up my arms and into my teeth. The teeth answer back with a neat ring that tells me I'm alive. Tav crawls to me and takes a firing slot at the bottom of the door, the way we were taught. His puffs of breath hit the dust and bounce like fleas. We aim into the bite of the frame and we do not give that bite up. We can feel the thing gather on the other side. It presses the sense of its shape through the wood. The wood gives the message to our shoulders in the old language trees use when they swayed alive and rubbed bark to bark in winter storms. We answer with single shots. We aim at the point where the pressure is greatest because that is where any animal is soft. It pushes, we hold, the roof groans and collapses further into the court, smothering it in a slither and cough of rubble. Dust whirls through the frame's crack and coats my tongue. In it I can taste my bunk's canvas, I can taste kettle tea, I can taste the oil from the sergeant's glove. The tastes run soft and away again. The pressure eases, not gone, eased, like a big man letting his weight rest on his heels to consider something. I realize I'm singing under my breath. It is not a prayer, and it is not a song I know. It is the rhythm my hands use when they strip the rifle and the clicks are right, that ghost of satisfaction when the spring slips into its house. I sing because it keeps my breathing in order. I sing because the word demon sits like an ant under my eyelid and I cannot blink it out. The frame's gap glows. A color like lime peel presses through it and then relaxes like a tongue withdrawing from a tooth. The wind dies as if obeying a command. We wait. I can hear outside now. Distant engines muttering like men deciding who must carry the heaviest bag. Distant shouting, honest, the kind you hear across a yard. A shell lands somewhere not too far and the shock makes the dust in the crack leap and hang. The door at my shoulder twitches as if in sleep. I tap the door twice with my muzzle. I feel nothing answer. I wedge the heel of my boot and drag it wider until I can slide my eye past the frame and look. The court is a ruin of broken tiles and a rolling lazy fire licking the weeds. The statue lies face down, its hands up like a penitent. The hole the thing tore into the light is shut to a fine seam that is nonetheless obvious the way a scar is. It looks like a single hair caught on the air. The hair wavers once, does not break, holds. Up, I tell Tav, and my throat flays the word, but it comes. We push together and step out, skirting the hot nodes with the careful boots of men who have seen men slip and die on nothing but heat. The promethium drum sags like a melted candied fruit. I can see my face in it, long and yellow and stopped by a diagonal crack. Tav touches his ribs with 2 fingers and winces. His eyes are human again, and I want to shake him for that and then thank him. I do neither. We move. We do not run immediately. Running is something that makes the world larger between your steps. I want the world to be in reach. I try the Vox on Dahl's body because the habit survives even as he does not. The Vox is grit. It stains my gloves like old smoke, and the stain creeps and then stops as if finding a skin it cannot cross. I wipe it on my thigh and the mark stays there. Good. That is something to punish later with water and brush. We pick our way toward the entry. Somewhere above, the beam that speared the demon shrieks and slides and then falls. It hits where the circle was. The sound it makes is the sound of a fine wire brought almost to breaking and then let go. The air there puffs like a cheek being blown into. The seam brightens and dims, and then the knot color is gone, like a mouth forced shut. Outside, the street looks exactly as it did when we came in. A skin of ash, a wind that drags it along gutters, a sky like bruised fruit. A transport purrs a long block away, engine idling like a dog waiting at a door. 2 figures move low beside it, weapons high. One asks with their barrel if we are alive. I nod with my whole chest so they can read it through the mask. As we cross the threshold, something crunches under my boot. I look down. It is not bones. It is not glass. It is the prayer strips, now hard as sugar, the ink boiling into tiny, perfect beads. I lift my soul and the bead pattern stays like a constellation threaded with ash. I step again. The beads crack, a fine, quiet noise, the kind of noise you do not admit you can hear because it might mean the silence is listening back. I step, and the sound follows me out.